the Cedar Lane Art Center, formerly the Shine House, inside Cedar Lane Park. It is a fabulous, fabulous art and pottery center now that works through the recreation department of the village of Ossining. The park is in the town, however, all of the programming is done through the village of Ossining. At the end of this whole episode, if you want to find out more information, we will put it up on the screen, the link to the web page. You can look at it on Facebook, or you can come out here and check out the art center. And there's a list of the different classes that will be given in the doorway. With us today is Kathy Fael. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
With us today is Kathy Fael. She is the art instructor here at the Cedar Lane Art Center, and we're very happy to have you as part of this organization. As we can see in front of us is some of the creations of the young people. Now, tell us a little bit about the Art Center, the courses that you give, and who are they geared towards?
Great, great. Well, I started teaching I started teaching 20 years ago, but most recently in Ossining, I started teaching at the community center, and we were in a carpeted boardroom with no water source. So I am happy as a clam to be in these new digs. It's absolutely phenomenal to be here. The classes that we teach are anything from 2 years old to 102 years old. This semester we're greatly expanded from our first semester, which was in the spring, and we did some summer children's camps, and Keith, who you'll talk with later, was conducting the adult ceramic program. I do both multimedia and pottery, predominantly with kids, although I do an introduction painting and drawing class for adults as well. But we do everything and the kitchen sink. My MO is to give the kids access to fine art materials, to fine art concepts, make it fun, let them experiment, and they never disappoint. I learn as much as they do in the process.
Great. And when does your fall classes begin?
The fall classes, now Keith's program is somewhat ongoing, so his will begin right after Labor Day. The children's classes, though, actually don't kick in till the first week in October, but then we'll be running full force. We have drawing and painting and multimedia. They'll do printmaking, they'll do painting on silk, we'll do traditional painting and drawing, we'll do paper mache, the whole gamut. This is for the youngest, which would be a kindergarten through third age range, and then we go 4th through 7th, and then another group which is, I can't remember, but something like 7th through 9th grade in terms of painting and drawing. And then on Thursdays we have exclusively clay classes for the littlest, and then wheel and hand building for the older kids in the evening.
And in front of us are some of our examples of some of our younger people's pottery. Is this from your summer program, or is this from the
summer? No, this is from summer, and this was going into 2nd grade, I think, through 6th grade. And we really explored like where we get our inspiration from. So we're doing ceramics, but instead of doing functional pottery, we decided to do something sculptural, taking our cue from this beautiful surroundings that we're in. Right. You can't get better for an artist to be surrounded by nature. It's a hand-in-hand thing. So we went outside, we talked about Monet, and right outside in our very own pond were water lilies, and we didn't see any critters that particular day, but we talked and imagined about what kind of animals we might find around pond life, and then they came back in and started creating.
Wow, there's some fantastic frogs here too. Here we have this young frog.
Yes.
Who looks very much like the frogs that you see even at Richard Wishney Park over at the Reservoir Park over on Pleasantville Road.
I love walking there.
And yes, and so you have all of these different sculptures here on the desk that is from the summer program. And I'm sure lots of parents would like to see the creativity of their children come to fruition too. Very cute. And some of the other stuff is painting classes?
We mixed in with this, we'll do painting, as I mentioned, I don't have an example here. Well, here's a plaster cast that was from the spring, but so we're always working in different mediums, and what I particularly love to do is I'm teaching very technical concepts, but all in the construct of fun. If it ain't fun, it ain't good, right? The approach I really take with everything I do is getting the kids to ask the what if question. You know, so it is not, okay, now we're going to draw a circle, then next within the circle you're going to do this. I don't teach that way. If that's what you're looking for, I'm not the right teacher for your child. What we do is explore the limits of our imagination. I am a firm believer that we're all created to create, and we all have this urge. It's just a matter of how we express it, whether it's musical, whether it's automotive, whether it's writing. Somehow we're not complete until we get a chance to be creative. And so it's just tapping into that innate ability that kids really thrive on. I think it was Picasso who said something to the tune of, we're all born creative. The challenge is to think like a child as we grow older, to really harness that creativity and enjoy it. So my classes are a lot of the what if question, you know, and not treating anything, the medium or the process, as sacred, but having fun with it. And it's through that art is discovered, you know, because if you just do what I do, then you're just learning what I think and how I do something. I want them to dig a little deeper and find out what they think about something. So we could look at something like the sunflowers back there, and you might see, wow, what beautiful colors. Someone else might see, whoa, they look like bursts of sun. Someone else might see something else. And so it's all a matter of telling your story about the thing that you're looking at. You know, I always tell the kids, you can take a picture. If you want it to look so realistic and just like that, take a picture and walk away, be done with it. Not that I have anything against photography, it's a wonderful art form too. But the art comes in with the kids' ability to start to learn, well, what do I like about this, and what's my story? What is it that I want to share with the world in my painting or my sculpture, whatever medium we're working in. So we have a lot of fun.
I have to say, this brought back very many memories of my childhood, and it's good to see that we're looking at different programs, that there's nothing wrong with technology or all that other stuff, but to let the kids and the adults learn how to do, or go back to learning how to do stuff as simple and as cute as this is right here. Many of us have our handprints, and our kids have our prints, and it's just something that we should all be looking for in today.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about the adult class or classes that you teach.
Okay. In the past, I've done a whole gamut. Keith here does the ceramics for adults, and I'll do beginning to intermediate drawing and painting. And that too, a lot of times I find in the adult classes it's an undoing of some earlier teaching and getting them to loosen up and about that precious thing again, just not to have the inhibition that we all have looking at the blank canvas. You know, now what? But just a lot of crazy exercises. We'll do drawing with our non-dominant hand, with our eyes closed, drawing upside down, not us, the paper, and just kind of loosening up and letting go of that. You know, because again, I just am a firm believer that it's through the discovery that you really can get jazzed about what you're doing. You know, if you just come in and expect to paint the way you've always painted, you don't need me,
right?
You know, because you already have that under your belt.
So these classes, these adult classes, are done in the evening.
No, this one, this semester, we're only offering one that's actually going to be on Tuesday mornings.
Oh,
we're just testing the waters here with that because we have such a commitment to these other programs, and we're still, again, in its earliest stages.
Yep.
So once we get more teachers, you know, and we just sent out a questionnaire. If you're interested in getting a questionnaire, you can look into that.
Is that done through the recreation department?
It's done all over. It's
Okay.
on our the recreation's website, I think, and we have a lot of hard copies all throughout the community.
Okay.
But get one, because we want to hear from the community and see where their interests lie, what they're interested in. So we're starting off doing a few things well, and then hopefully,
And that is the way. That is always the way to do things. But you're all right. So let's go back to your children's programming. That is done after school.
Yes.
Except for the summer.
There is one adult child class, again, that we're going to do on Tuesday morning for the littlest. So that's fun. The parents always have more fun.
Mommy, your daddy, and me.
That's right. You got it. You got it. Or caregiver in me.
Yeah, I was going to say, or guardian or caregiver.
Absolutely.
Right?
So we're going to do that on Tuesday, and again on Saturday. I'm excited also on Saturday we're going to have a cartooning class too. So I've expanded from my offerings of 2 to 3 classes to I think about 10 this fall.
Oh, how exciting is that?
Yeah.
And again, this building was put together over the last few years. It was obviously a labor of love that put it all together. So it's very exciting that we have this art center out here at Cedar Lane Park. So I want to thank you, and I hope that all the classes fill up quickly. I know they will. And we want to make sure we get the word out for people that may not be in the usual social media groups, or doesn't, because you have to get the recreation booklet online now. It doesn't. Right. I'm sure there's a couple of copies in the community center, but just like other offerings that they give, this is an exciting offering that we're very, very happy with, and we can't wait to see it expand. But you're absolutely right. Always start small, do it right, and then expand programs.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Kathy.
My pleasure. Come on down and check us out.
So here we are. We're continuing our tour of Cedar Lane Art Center. And here we are with Keith Gordon. He is the Pottery Potter of Ossining. So he has classes here. But the first thing we're going to do with Keith is we're going to take a tour of this building. It's absolutely outstanding, the way it's set up and everything. And then he's going to take you over to where the kilns are, over in the old ice house that's here up in Cedar Lane Park. And then we'll come back and we'll chat a little bit more about what your class is and what you do over on the other side of this wall.
Great. Okay, well, this is welcome to Cedar Lane Art Center. This building took 3 years to rebuild after it was damaged in Hurricane Sandy, and the Parks and Rec crew worked magic here. Come on in, take a look. One of the things that's still ongoing is there was a competition for designing a logo for the Art Center. This is Brian Sheridan's design, which was the winner of the competition. And it says who we are, and I'm now in the process of making it in clay. Come take a look here. In the old theater space, we have a mock-up of the design, which I use to make tiles, which you see over here on the right. They've already been bisque fired, and they just glazed them this morning. They're going to go back in the kiln. When they come out of the kiln, they should look this color. And then we're going to take planks like this that were the old docks on the pond. And the parks crew, Mario Gallardo and his staff, will put together a 4-foot by 6-foot panel of wood and then route out each of these tiles into that design. So that's oncoming. We haven't figured out exactly what the purpose will be for this room, but it has multiple possibilities. It can be a gallery space, it can be a concert space, and just a question of who wants to put something forward. Come on this way. I don't think you want to film all this thing, the history of the building. So here's the wheel throwing room. We have a number of electric pottery wheels here, plus this combination electric kick wheel. All the work that's made by the students is put over here to dry, and then they trim them, and then we move them across to the kiln building, which I'll show you in a moment. The slab roller, and this is where we do our glazing work and hand building pottery. And you'll see here are some simple pieces where you roll out a slab, press a leaf into it, and when this dries a little bit more, it's dry enough now, you now have a little bowl. We'll then glaze it so that the veins of the leaf show up really sharply, and we're going to put these leaves are all going into the Raku Firing we're doing September 10th. Now Raku is a little different than what we normally do here, because you fire the pots very quickly. Within an hour, each firing gets up to 1800 degrees, and then you pull the pots out with tongs and protective gear while they're red hot and the glazes are molten, and you plunge them into a container with something that burns, like sawdust or newspaper or pine needles or wood chips, all kinds of possible options. And then you cover it so that the fire that's started by the hot pot is starved for oxygen, so it takes the oxygen out of the glaze and reduces the chemistry, and you get really exciting, bright and colorful glazes that way. And then after about 10 or 15 minutes, you pull them back out, spritz them with water, and you see what you got. Over here are some examples of Raku pottery and other alternative firing techniques. If you come to the Henry Gordine Park on September 10th, we'll be there from 9 to 4, about 6 potters from the area, and we'll be doing a series of firings all day long, and you'll get to see the process of making these pieces. Over here is a visual demonstration for my students on the steps of making a pot on the wheel. So first you comb the pot for making a bowl, then you center it, and you sink the well in the middle, then you pull the wall the first time, and you pull the wall a little higher, and then you shape it wider. And the same in the back with the other colored clay is all the steps for doing a cylinder, and they're different than a bowl. So this is a way that people can learn as they practice and remind themselves, you know, what was it that he did in that demonstration? Well, here it is. And so the goal, this isn't a beautiful pot, but is to have an even wall all the way up, so no thick spot and thin spots. For a cylinder, you want a flat bottom. And these were not trimmed, so normally there would be a foot on it as well, but these are just for how to throw it. The trimming is the second stage after the pots have dried some. Now let me show you where we fire the pots.
Thank you.
Are you on or not? So this was originally the estate of the Crest family that owned the 5, 10, 25 department stores all over the country. And they lived up the hill there, and they took ice out of the pond in the winter and filled this building here up completely with ice. And that's how they kept their food cold all summer long, and how they cooled their house too, I think. These days, we no longer need ice to keep our food cold, so we're going to use the ice house the opposite way. Let me turn the light on first. I don't trip. To cook our pots. So in here, when the pieces are finished in the studio, I put them here to dry, and they have to be completely dry with no moisture left. And I'll show you this. This is one of the leaf pieces that you saw there, have just been made. This was made last night by one of our students in the adult beginners class. They'll go in the kiln when they're completely dry. And we have a digital kiln here that the town bought and an older manual kiln. They hold about 7 cubic feet of pots. We fire first time to bisque to about 1950 degrees Fahrenheit. Take them out, we glaze them, then we fire them again to 2250. And at that point you get the finished result. And hopefully all of this you see on the walls are the materials I use to mix the glazes. And they're mostly minerals found in the earth that are mined and then ground up very fine. We mix very specific quantities of each to get specific results. In terms of the quality of the glaze, whether it's clear or translucent or opaque, and the colors in the glaze. And we use these cones here. These are called pyrometric cones, and they'll be set in the kiln in front of these peepholes, and each cone will melt at a specific temperature. So as the kiln is getting close to where I want it to stop, the first cone will bend down. That's my warning that it's almost done. Then when the second cone starts to bend over, that's when I stop the kiln. If I don't stop in time and the third starts to go, I've gone too far. That's how that's the traditional way of monitoring your kiln. Now we program with a computer, but you still need to use the cones, otherwise sometimes you get results you don't want. That's it.
So now that we're done, and we even looked over in the old ice house where you do your firing of the pottery, let's talk a little bit about the actual masterpieces and the work that is done here and some of the classes that you teach out of this building. If you can notice that we have all this natural light beaming down on us, because one of the things about this building is it's filled with skylights, which is very important, that we have a lot of natural light coming in, and we knew that would be very important for an art center. So Keith, tell us a little bit about this room and about your classes that you teach.
Okay, well, I'm glad you mentioned the light, because my 50 years experience with Pottery is one of the few ceramics programs that's not in a basement. So we have windows, you will get to experience the nature around you, and you don't have to carry things up and down the stairs.
Right.
Which is nice for me as the studio manager, that hauls the clay and things like that. So in this room is where the wheel throwing classes take place, and we have, right at the moment, two adult ceramics programs. On Monday nights, beginning the week after Labor Day, is for beginner adults, and on Tuesday nights is for intermediate adults, people with some experience. And it's a mixture of hand building and wheel throwing and sculpting, depending on what the students want to learn. And the classes are relatively small, so I can be sort of going back and forth between the hand building area there and the wheel throwing area here. We have the great fortune of a lot of supplies and equipment and tools that were donated to the Art Center. 3 different potters gave us their entire studio, and one of whom was the children of a potter who passed away. You should get a picture of that sign over there, recognize our donors. And it just really helped a lot. So we spent very little money on actually outfitting this place. On this side you see the electric pottery wheels where you throw your pieces, and I'll show you a demonstration of just what that's about. In the back is the combination kick wheel electric wheel that I usually use in class to demonstrate so that all the students can stand around it and see what I'm doing.
So when are your, you said Monday night, you were doing a class on Monday night, and I'm sorry, what was the other night?
Tuesday night.
Tuesday night.
Now, there are other classes besides ceramics that people should know about. Yoshimi Arai is teaching origami, 1 class for children and 1 class for adults.
Okay.
And she's also going to have a 1-day workshop on making sushi in the large room facing the pond. And Susan Altman, who for a long time was a high school art teacher, is offering a class for the first time here for sophomores, juniors, and seniors in high school who want to prepare a portfolio. Let me try that again. For sophomores, juniors, and seniors in high school who want to prepare their portfolio to try to get admitted to art school college.
Wow.
So that will be mostly drawing and painting, and we hope people from all the local high schools will come.
That's very good. And again, all of these classes are in the recreation brochure. They're online, and you can go to the recreation center. And we will, at the end of this clip, put a copy of the page up and put some more information as to where you can get information on these different classes that are being offered in this fantastic addition to already a great recreation program in the village and town of Ossining. So right now, Keith is going to do a demonstration of throwing on the wheel so that you can see that this is for beginners and intermediates. If you don't know anything about it but always want to try this, this is the perfect opportunity for you to come out here and try it real soon. Again, we'll have the classes available at the end of this film, and we'll also give you all the information where you can find it online, and it is in the community center too. So Keith?
All right, so here's approximately 1 pound ball of clay, and we're going to stick it to the wheel so it doesn't go flying off.
You want to get one?
The foot pedal controls how fast it goes, just like a sewing machine. And my hands decide where the clay moves. So the first step is to get it centered so that it's moving smoothly and evenly. Otherwise, when you try to pull the clay, it'll go all over the place. We don't want that. So now I've sunk down what we call the well. And it's moved up. Once I've got it that far, you slow it down. And see how far I can go. Usually pull a cylinder about 3 times. It's called pulling. What's actually happening is that my hand on the inside is moving the clay over my hand on the outside, and then my hands move the clay up. The clay actually flows, almost like a fluid would move. Once we get it up as high as we want and as thin as we want, we now shape. And I can go anywhere I want at this point because the pot's still on center. So that's your standard vase shape. And this is the part that students hate. You don't know whether you threw it right until you cut it. Unless you can feel it with your fingers. But when you're learning, you should be cutting more pots than you're saving. So that's the idea of even thickness going up and down. And we'll do one more, we'll do a bowl. Because they may seem the same, but they're actually very different steps. Over here on the shelf, you can see 3 pieces that one of my adult students did last week. After the first step of throwing the pot, you take it off and put it on a board and let it get a little bit drier, not completely dry, so that it's firm enough that you can turn it upside down and trim a foot on it. There's always excess clay at the bottom there, and you want to lift this pot up. You don't want it to look like it's attached to the table. So that's what the trimming is about. But that, because we only have 2.5 hours in our class, we usually trim the following week, or the studio is open Sunday mornings from 9 to noon for a drop-in open studio. Primarily for students, but also for other potters in the community that want to use the studio. So if you've started a sculpture and you can only work on a sculpture for a certain amount of time, and then the clay has to stiffen up, and you can come back on Sunday and work some more, and come back on Tuesday and work some more. So to do a bowl, I usually have a wider, lower form at the center. When it's centered, I'm still opening the well, but this time you can't see it, but I'm not having a flat bottom. The bottom's curved, like you would think a bowl should be. And the goal is to have a continuous curve all the way up the wall. Again, once it's opened, you slow it down and move the clay over the wall. And now, instead of moving to my left, I'm going to move to my right and back as I pull the wall. Compress the rim. And the wider you get, the slower we need to go. If I want to, I can lay this bowl right out till it's almost flat. And that's the reason I left extra clay on the rim, because as you get wider, the rim's going to get thinner. And if you don't have the clay at the beginning, it won't be there at the end when you need it. And then we can play with it, we can put a spiral in it. So that's the difference between a bowl and a cylinder. Students in the class, after they've learned a little bit about hand building, doing a pinch pot, slab, and coil pots, they've learned how clay feels. They've learned how to use their fingers to make the clay go and feel through the wall of the piece they're working on. Then they're ready to start doing it on the wheel, where things are moving a lot faster. You need to be comfortable with the clay first. And I go back and forth between hand building and wheel throwing. And my sculpture work is usually pieces I threw on the wheel, join them together, and then reshape them, so that you'd never know they were thrown. So there's all kinds of possibilities with clay. I've been doing clay since 1971 as a potter, and for 10 years before that I was my mother's studio slave. She was a professional potter in Maryland. So it's in my blood, literally and figuratively.